So today we are going to talk about a variation in production, also known as a VIP. So how I actually go about explaining the VIP, it's almost like a self-remix. So an artist will take their original song and add elements to it, change certain bits of the song to create a totally new atmosphere or totally new vibe surrounding the songs. A better way to show this, I'll show you a couple of examples here. So as you can tell there from them two brief examples, you can tell between the original and the VIP there are those familiar aspects of the original song still looming there in the background. So the song that I'm going to be working on today is my original called Fantasy. If you're not familiar with the original, this is how it goes. By the end of the video I'll show you how I've transformed it into this VIP track. So for me, I find VIPs very beneficial as an artist because number one, when you are doing a live set, a VIP is such a great way to either transition from your original song into the VIP or good to show something totally new to the listener. So obviously with the Marauder track that I just showed you, when the audience hear the build up for Casket, they're expecting the drop to go one way, then all of a sudden it gets taken into another way. So this is a great way of engaging the crowd because they are hearing something totally new and it's exciting. It adds a lot of energy to the mix because obviously they're expecting one drop and they get another, which in my opinion sounds a lot heavier and a lot more energetic than the original. And then number two, I actually find VIPs quite easy to make because the main thing is you've got the original elements from your original song. So with my version in Fantasy here, obviously I've got the main vocals, I've got the access to the drums, I've got access to the main synths, etc, etc. So the original idea is already laid out for you. All you then need to do is expand on that and change little bits. So right now we'll dive into it and I'll show you how I would go about creating a VIP. So if I quickly show you how I've actually made that drop. So one thing about this is that actually I made the original song Fantasy in a Logic project on my old MacBook. I still have access to that project file, but obviously I wanted to create the VIP on my much sturdier PC machine. So just down here what I have is I have 4 stems that I bounced out. So I have the drums, vocal, bass and synths which sound a little bit like this. Obviously just a quicker tempo. Then you have the bass, the vocal, don't recognize a strain, and then obviously along with the drums. So basically what I've done here is almost like a self-remix. It's almost like I've just given these stems to myself as a part of like a remix package as you would get on obviously online. So basically here, one thing that I always like doing with VIPs is totally mixing it up. As I've just said in my explanation, you want something to elevate the older song. So obviously the older one was on 128, which is like your stereotypical EDM big house sort of tempo. So obviously if I bump that up to 150, as you can already tell, that would be a massive impact of energy with it being a lot quicker than the original tempo. And obviously, as you can imagine, in an actual live set, if I transitioned from the original song that's 128 to 150 BPM, it would just bring so much more energy to the set, because obviously the listeners would enjoy listening to fantasy, and obviously when the VIP comes in, it's something completely different, much higher tempo, and obviously adds that energy to your set. So to accompany this energy, I'm not going to bore you with these, but these are just basically a very simple drum pattern. That's almost like your Latin hardstyle sort of drop. And then going to the chorus, I haven't added much to the chorus. I actually scrap that. I haven't added anything else to the chorus other than the bass, as you'll see in a minute. All of it is basically just made up of samples from the original. So this vocal group is just my voice saying you, just chopped up and slightly pitched up on a few of these. I mean, just playing different sort of pitches, nothing too complex there. That's just layered with this harmonised vocal using pitch proof. And then just because I wanted the vocal to be a bit of a layered, not exactly a leading factor of the drop, but just sort of floating about, I've just added a sort of harsh EQ on here just so it gets the mid-ranges, a bit of chorus just to thicken it, just a little bit. Obviously an auto pan as well to sort of keep it in the stereo field, but keep it drifting in the stereo field. So no, it isn't just wide, it isn't just in the centre, it's a bit of both. So that's the vocals. Then that's also layered with these vocal one-shots, just as it was in the original song. Then that's layered here with the simps, which are the different chords, just played in a weird sort of pattern. So it isn't literally just playing one chord for one bar, another chord for another bar, etc. You can tell it sort of circulates around those two chords, which is like the first chord and the third chord, just with little variations here and there, so obviously it keeps it in key. And then that's layered with this repeating melody tone. And again, sort of the joy of bouncing out stems in this is that the harp is actually layered with the lead synth. And one thing that I really liked about this is that obviously you have those two elements together, but if I bounced out every single track as an individual stem, I might not have thought to actually put those together. But even here, I think the end result really works. So if I just solo that and take out the bass, you can tell it's still good. It sounds very messy and a bit disorientating, I'd say, without the bass in. But then, because the bass plays the original root notes of the song, for me, it brings everything together. It makes everything, if you would, a bit whole again. Don't get me wrong, them Simpson that's still messy, but that's how I sort of wanted it. I wanted it a bit chaotic, a bit high energy. So that was basically how I did the hardstyle drop, and that is all there is to that little section. And I'll show you in this section as well how the bass line actually almost determines the mood of the track. So up here, he basically breaks down in this little bar, just with a little bit of a tom fill in that. And then the drums are just here, just playing a bit of a slower pattern. And you can tell it's almost like a trap sort of sound. And then with the vocal, so with the trap bit, the vocal is still there, just the hype machine has gone down a little bit on the low pass. And basically then it's just creating a bit more of a layer so it doesn't stand out, and I'll show you why I've done that in a minute. Because then on the simps, they aren't as chaotic, they just play every 2 bars just a different chord. Then over here it'll play this one. So again, that's just like the first drop, it's just going on that 2 chord sort of basis. But the thing that mainly takes the lead here is this lead that sort of was showcased a little bit in the first drop, but wasn't really that standout. So this plays for a longer section of time now. So as I say here, like the lead actually takes the The lead actually takes the lead, would you believe that? But the lead here actually takes most of the focus of the track, and then obviously just to create a bit more of a atmosphere, I've just reversed this little section here, sort of leading into the next bar. And again, without the bass, this would sound a little bit like this. And me personally there's like a little bit of feeling behind all that, but there's not a massive amount of emotion behind the chords and the melody that's playing. And as I say, that's mainly due to this bass line. Like, I put this in and now it transformed into a totally different track. And something very interesting is actually going on here as well, because as I say, when it turns a bit trappy, it goes a bit darker than the original one, even though it's playing the exact same melody, the same chords, just a little bit less chaotic. The total mood of it's changed, and I believe it is due down to this bass line. So, for example, if I actually do this over, so the bass line that was playing in the first section of the drop was the actual bass notes of the original song. So the original bass notes of this song are a G, an A, down to an E, then up to a C. So obviously they sort of create a little bit of feeling, because it's like down, up, so like unhappy, bit sad, then finishing happy again. So the most of it there is actually quite happy. There's not many times that it does go low. So if I replace the second drop with this original bass line, and you can tell that it still doesn't sound bad. I'm not saying that it sounds bad, but for me the feeling is the exact same as it was in the first drop, and the feeling is the exact same as it was in the original song. Obviously, as I say, with VIP, I like switching things up a lot. So with this other bass line, it is just actually ascending note. But the thing is, it is actually playing the exact same notes as before, just in a different order. So instead of going G, A, E, C, it actually goes E, G, A, C. So it still finishes on that same note, because the starting phrase is on the lowest note of the original one. It sets it off with this dark tone. Then because it only goes up a little bit and it doesn't have a big step up, again it sort of portrays that emotion of, oh, I've gone up a little bit but not that much, like there hasn't been that much of an uplift. And them last two notes like sort of bring it out of that dark tonality. But again, as I say, just starting on that E and just changing the position of the notes really just bring out this darker quality. Opposed to having the original bass line. Yeah, I just personally prefer it with that real darker undertone. But other than that, there's not a lot to show you here. As you've seen, there's not many layers to this. And I say that's because these original stems were already mixed and mastered. So don't have to be here worrying about the tonality of the synths or the tonality of the melody, because I worked all that out before. And as you've seen here, if I just chop up those little bits, I don't even have to really mix it all that much. Obviously, I've got to mix it a little bit to make it all sit nicely together. But because of where I pre-mixed it, in a way, it sort of sits well as it is. And don't get me wrong, like, this wouldn't happen for every single VIP on the planet. But for this song, it really worked out for me. Obviously, I was able to chop up all these elements, and I believe it'd sound quite good. If I dropped this in a live set, I think it would work quite well. You know what I mean? It'd be very energetic, it'd be very chaotic, but it would be nice to listen to. But yeah, that's all I just want to show you. Just want to show like that sort of changes in bass line can just really change the whole atmosphere of the song. So yeah, I hope to work a little bit more on this VIP in my own time and hopefully release it one day or another. But yeah, if you did like this video, please give it a like, share it with a friend, show it your dog. I really don't care at this point. But yeah, I hope you learned something, and I hope you can use this maybe on your own tracks. But yeah, if you want to see me do any more VIPs on my own music as well, just drop a suggestion down below, or any ideas for future videos, just let me know. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. Stay good, stay out of trouble, and I will see you in the next episode.